Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shuffle music reviews and retrospectives from a gracelessly aging millennial. I might sound particularly aging this morning, might have a particularly raspy voice since I kind of changed my work schedule up. I used to record videos and do my sort of homework for the main show, Due Dissidence, late at night. Now I'm getting up really early in the morning and doing all my work really early. I feel like it works a lot better. It's easier getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting a cup of coffee in you, and starting to work rather than after a long day working until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, falling asleep bleary eyed at the laptop. So it's a lifestyle change. Seems to be working pretty well so far. But my voice might be a little extra gravelly, which who knows? May make me sound better, may make me sound smarter. I hope so. I hope so. Because as I get older, I think this is going to become more of a problem. In fact, it almost certainly will, since I run my mouth for a living. Got to take care of the instrument. Well, speaking of instruments, we have a new album review today, which I'm really excited about. It is the new album from neo soul artist Jill Scott. It's called To Whom This May Concern. I like this album quite a bit. Great mix of soul styles from hip hop and R&B to the blues to jazz, some stuff that has more of a retro sound, some stuff that has more of a modern sound. I thought it was quite good. But before we get into this, I do want to give you a little backstory on who is this Jill Scott, because she was actually discovered in Philadelphia, her hometown, by one of my favorite bands, hip hop band called The Roots. Now they are most famously known as Jimmy Fallon's house band. But they had a great run of albums in the 90s into the 2000s. They are a fantastically talented group of musicians. Questlove, the drummer for The Roots, actually discovered Jill Scott, who was a North Philly-based poet and spoken word artist, and she actually co-wrote a song called You Got Me, which was a big hit for The Roots off of their 1999 album, Things Fall Apart. Even though Jill Scott co-wrote the song and laid the vocal on it, the record label actually insisted that she be replaced on the studio cut by Erykah Badu, who was a household name at the time and who the label felt would sell more records. So here's a sort of brief story about that from OK Player. The story of The Roots, You Got Me, why Jill Scott's version reigns supreme. Considering themselves to have struck gold with Scott's vocals in Tote, The Roots sent the You Got Me demo to their then label MCA Records in preparation for Things Fall Apart's release on February 23rd, 1999. Though Scott was a fresh voice on the rising neo-soul scene, much to the label's dismay, they pushed for Badu, Erykah Badu, of course, to replace Scott, considering her to be a far more superior, recognizable feature. Hearing Scott's demo, Badu was confused at the group needing to replace Scott, recognizing her undeniable talent. While the Roots were left disgruntled at their hand being forced, MCA Records were head above water in terms of budgeting their acts, their roster also including Mos Def, Jaguar Wright, and Common at the time. By replacing Scott with Badu, it was a way for the label to recoup costs along with achieving a mainstream hit. And here's a quote. It was sort of like the underlying threat of, we are not going to push this record to the hilt if you don't have Erykah on it, Questlove told the Philadelphia City Paper in 2001. I had to tell Jill I'm a slave to my record company and I don't really have that much control. So even though Scott co-wrote the song and recorded a great vocal track, she was replaced on the album. So this is the studio album called Things Fall Apart. Great album. Lots of great songs on this album. You Got Me is one of them. But the Roots also put out a live album that same year, The Roots Come Alive. And on the live album, Jill Scott appears on stage to sing vocals. And they make a point on this CD to, before they play this song with Jill Scott, they actually tell the story about how Erykah Badu replaced her on the recorded version, but now we're going to bring up the artist who actually wrote the piece. So the Roots were not shy about their bitterness at having to replace her on that track. But that is really what got her foot in the door. And then she came out with her debut album in 2000. She went on to make 4 more albums between this one, who was Jill Scott, and Woman in 2015. She also did some acting work. You may recognize her from the number one Ladies Detective Agency, which was the short lived HBO series, but did very well amongst the critics. She also apparently appeared in the Marvel series Black Lightning. She played Lady Eve, apparently. I know really nothing about that except as a point of trivia because I know she's done some acting work alongside with her music work. And then her 2015 album Woman was her last studio album before a decades long recording hiatus. And now, of course, she comes back with To Whom This May Concern. This is the new one, a very pleasant surprise. I enjoyed this album a great deal. Like I said, she did get started as a poet and spoken word artist. She does some spoken word on this album. There's also some hip hop tracks with some hip hop artists who come in and guest. Tierra Whack, Too Short being a couple of them. I had never heard of those artists, but the songs that they guest on are both very good. North Side, which is an homage to her old neighborhood. And then Biggest Pimp of the Year, which is a politically charged song featuring Too Short. Those are both great tracks. But the playing on this album is great, as well as her vocals. She's a really a complete package. She can rap, she can do poetry, and she is an excellent singer. Got a really sweet, sort of timeless voice. So her vocals on this are very, very strong. Also, the playing on this is really strong, and the production is terrific too. A lot of great piano on this album, really great bass playing on this album, a great bass solo in a song called To Be Honest, which is towards the end of the album. And then there's great bass part on Off the Back, which is a sort of homage to great black female vocalists of yesteryear. But like I said, the piano sounds really sweet and warm. The bass is great on this album, and the percussion is really good. Not just the drums, but the auxiliary percussion. Is great playing on Me 4. And then it kind of sounds silly to talk about now in light of the SNL skit, but there's actually great cowbell on this album. Could have used more cowbell. Actually, this has the perfect amount of cowbell on a song called Liftin' Me Up. So overall, there's just a great mix of styles here. Really is a tour of what the sort of neo soul world is. There's a lot of great songs here that feel very modern. The last few tracks on the album, maybe a bit too modern for my taste. That's where you get more into the sort of like tech infused kind of drum sounds. Those are the last three songs on here, Right Now, I Say, and Sincerely Do. Those are some of the least interesting tracks on the album, but that's tracks 17, 18, and 19. By then, you have at least a dozen songs on here that are really solid. Some of them are quite good. Be Great is track 2 on the album, a really lively, bouncy kind of track featuring Trombone Shorty, which is the amazing New Orleans brass band outfit. That's Trombone Shorty. Check them out. They will come up throughout the podcast here. They're a great band, one of my favorite new bands. And then you have Pay You on Tuesday. That's another standout track. That is really an old-fashioned kind of jazz blues number with great piano licks, great horn soloing, and very, shall we say, modern lyrics. Too modern for me to actually repeat on YouTube. But that's a really cool track. Like I said, Biggest Pimp of the Year, Me 4, Lifting Me Up. These are tracks that I have starred here. Off the Back, the song, like I said, the homage to Nina Simone, Billie Holiday. Really great playing on that. Musically, it's just really interesting the whole way through. And she really orders the tracks in a way that I think kind of keep you guessing, going back and forth between a more modern sound and a more retro sound. But even the songs that sort of sound like they're more sort of from a bygone era, it's not gimmicky in the way that, for example, the new Tyler Ballgame album sort of plays after a while, right? It's not made to sound like it was recorded back in the 40s and the 50s. It just sounds like it could have been one of those songs. And so really, really strong work here. I'm happy to give this one 4 stars. This is easily the best album that I've reviewed so far this year. The year is young. We are here halfway through February, but this is a strong contender for a top 25 list at the end of the year, I think. It's very, very strong. I encourage you to check this one out. It's a great sort of sampling of what, modern soul music has become. Like I said, you get a lot of different styles here, all of them done really well. I think the backing band on here is really strong. The guest appearances are really strong. The songwriting is strong, and the vocals are strong. Like I said, toward the end of the album, the last few tracks, not as interesting as the first dozen or so, but there's plenty of great material here. No qualms at all about going 4 out of 5 stars for To Whom This May Concern by Jill Scott. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Please smash that subscribe button. Best Albums of 1991 list is coming out very, very shortly. We'll have that one for you sooner than later, and we'll get some other stuff in the can for your viewing pleasure as well. Thanks, everybody, very much for watching. Like I said, please smash the subscribe button on the way out. Helps out a great deal, and we will see you next time.